NEPM's podcasts are funded by Armbrook Village Senior Living in Westfield, offering assisted living and compass memory support with evidence-based treatment for those with memory loss. More at armbrookvillage.com.
Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith. Monte is currently dressed as Glenda the Good Witch and walking north towards Northampton, leading the March for the Food Bank 15, where over the course of 2 days, he, along with a myriad of others, will walk 43 miles from Springfield to Greenfield, raising awareness about food insecurity, hunger, and the cause and affiliates of the Food Bank of Western Mass, which serves all 4 counties of the 413 in its mission to eradicate hunger. And today's leg of that journey started off at MLK Family Services in Mason Square in Springfield, sounding a bit like this.
Well, and we want to welcome everybody here for this very important day with this march. We've been doing this for a few years now, and it's very important. Together, we end hunger in solidarity with the Food Bank of Western Massachusetts. We here at MLK deliver 80,000 pounds of food per month to our neighbors, 1 million pounds of food annually. We can't let our neighbors, friends, seniors, and future leaders go hungry. Martin Luther King Family Service has stood on pillars of peace, social justice, economic justice, food justice, self-determination, self-actualization, and self-sufficiency, nourishing and empowering the aspirations of individuals, families, and youth. Dr. King reminded us, I have the audacity to believe that people everywhere can have 3 meals a day for their bodies, education and culture in their minds, and dignity, equality, and freedom for their spirits. We thank each and every one of you for being here and willing to march for food justice, because food justice is racial justice. We combat it every day, so let's even more in a meaningful and significant way, and we choose to do so in our community. And we're so glad that you're starting right here for this most important time of year to reach out and help our neighbors. We thank everyone for being here.
Thank you all for joining this incredibly wacky event. I want to single out Liz O'Gilvy over there, who is convinced, who does this work day in and day out. She's one of my heroes. She's the only reason I don't call this a ridiculous publicity stunt anymore. And it's really because the work that the food bank does with the close to 200 agencies that it works with throughout the 4 counties of Western Massachusetts, including agencies like Martin Luther King Jr. Family Services, where the real work is getting done. If we can draw attention to A, the need, but B, the support that people have for our neighbors in need, then this is no longer a ridiculous publicity stunt exclusively. It is something that we can all gather together as a community and do together. Yes, it's wacky. Yes, it's cold. Yes, I'm in a dress for 2 days. But if we can shine a light on the work of MLK Jr. Family Services, if we can honor the memory of Ron Johnson, who first invited us here, and thank Shannon and the board for having us here again, and if we learn about the issues of hunger, shine a light on it, we can destigmatize it, and as Congressman Jim McGovern has said many, many times, we can end hunger if we only had the political will. So the fact that Congressman Neal comes out, that so many of our elected officials come out, we are trying to structurally change this from the top down, but also from places like MLK Jr. Family Services, from the bottom up. These guys in Congress in Washington, D.C. are going to work to make sure for generations that there's enough food to go around. But MLK Jr. Family Services is going to make sure there's enough food today. And that's what it's all about. So thank you so much for joining us on this 15th March for the Food Bank. Everybody go to the bathroom. We've got a couple more minutes, and then we're going to head out that door and head up towards Northampton, Massachusetts. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you. Yeah. We're here with Senator Jake Oliveira at the kickoff to the March for the Food Bank. Senator, last time you knew I was doing Barbie and came in pink, but you're in UMass maroon right now. What brings you out to this march again?
Well, I'm not just in UMass maroon. I'm also in Springfield Technical Community College, which we will be walking by shortly underneath. But this is my second year participating. Last year, I only did part of the first day because we had the Secretary of Transportation visiting my district, but I enjoyed it so much. I'm back for the full day today for the leg from Springfield to Northampton. But food insecurity is something that my office deals with probably on a weekly basis. This year, I took the lead on the Senior Farm Share program, which helps farmers here in Western Mass, but also our seniors and our councils on aging access fresh fruits and vegetables. The other thing that we're squarely focused in on the Western Mass delegation is restoring HIP funding, which is scheduled to be cut come December from about $80 a month for families to about $10 a month or $20 a month. So we're working hard to make sure that we include in a future supplemental budget funding to restore that program so families can continue to access fresh fruits and vegetables from Western Mass.
Well, we appreciate you being here, Senator Oliveira. We'll see you on the road.
All right, we'll see you on the road.
We are right out in front of the NEPM studios on Hampden Ave in Springfield, our first stop. It's only been a couple miles. How are you feeling, U.S. Congressman Jim McGovern?
I feel like $1 million.
Well, maybe we'll raise $1 million, but the goal is for $500,000. I asked the same thing of Congressman Neal. What can be done on the federal level, given the circumstances that we're about to face with the new Congress and the new administration?
Well, I think we're going to have to be in damage control. It's hard to believe that with the new president and the current Congress that we can expand benefits like SNAP, but we're going to have to do what we can to prevent them from cutting them. As you know, I mean, the SNAP benefit on average is about a little over $2 per person per meal. People who are on SNAP, most of them work full time, and many of them have to also rely on the food bank. So, look, we all ought to agree that food should be a fundamental human right, and everybody in our community should have access to good, nutritious food. That's what our goal ought to be. But what we're doing today and tomorrow is important because this is real. The money that is raised here will go directly to pay for meals for families in our community. And that is a good thing. That is something everybody should be excited about getting involved with. And I hope you come out and walk with us.
So I'm with Liz Ogilvie from Gardening the Community and the Springfield Food Policy Council and many other things. She's our personal hero of the show. And one of the things that we were talking about is the importance of policy to try and mitigate some of this, because the core problem isn't just hunger. It's that it's the misconception and that things like this are supposed to be expandable brass band. Some sort of end-all, be-all solution to problems that are endemic like this. But especially now, how important are things like this to try and raise awareness about that policy for the greater public?
Absolutely. Thanks so much for talking to me. It's the food bank, we count on them. I have given away produce at the food pantry here at MLKFS where we're starting out, but we cannot gift or food bank our way out of food insecurity, shortage of affordable housing, lack of access to transportation. All of these issues have a root cause, which we don't want to deal with, and this election has shown us. And I'm terribly worried about policy. We never had a new farm bill. Rep. McGovern has been an amazing champion, but right now, everything attached to helping people eat is at risk. Project 2025 and this new agenda wants to cut food stamps, WIC. They want to cut Meals on Wheels, so we don't want to feed our kids through the Women, Infants, and Children's Program, WIC. We don't want people to continue to get the small amount of food stamps they get, and now we don't want seniors to get meals. We've got to have great state policy because we don't know what's going to happen at the federal level. And we have to give people healthy food. We lost so many friends and neighbors disproportionately in Hampden County because they had food-related preventable diseases when they were infected with COVID. It's time to tell the truth.
5 years ago when we were doing this walk, coming through the streets of Chicopee, we saw a car stuck on the side of the road And because we are so involved in what I call this movable community of compassion that Monte and the Food Bank of Western Mass has started, we left our carts because we're pushers, and we pushed the car until it jump-started. It is a memory that, of course we did. We see a car that needs help, we fill up the boxes and we put them in the car, because this is just the best.
This is Tim Garvin. He runs the United Way of Central Massachusetts, and this is Sean Barry, who is from Four Seasons Wine and Liquors in Hadley. And not only did he jumpstart a car in Chicopee, he was listening to this event on the radio in its early days and saw that I was going off route in dangerous ways in the town of Amherst and said, I got to help this moron out in the future, make sure he doesn't get lost. And so now not only does he stand at the front of that cart, make sure I don't hit all the speed bumps, get over all the curbs, make sure my dress doesn't get caught in there, he also will dress in theme. So he's Dorothy to my Glenda today on this wicked, awesome 15th March for the food bank.
So if I may, everybody in the world needs a Sean Barry.
Yes.
And everybody in the world needs to be inspired by somebody like Monte. Yes.
Why is this important? Why? What?
So we can read the statistics, right? There are millions and millions of Americans, veterans, seniors, families, kids who are 2 checks not from, but already beyond being able to pay for food. And I think that's criminal. And the idea that we can gather as a community and walk and march and bring attention to the issue of hunger and raise food and stop at places like Lorraine's Kitchen and see the good that's happening, especially in these divisive times, I think every American needs to find a way to unite and come together and do something good. This Thanksgiving week, that's what we're doing.
I also just want to say, one of the coolest things that I know about the March for the Food Bank is that Tim got to know some folks on this march. So when the flooding happened, the farms last year, and we're wiping out farms all across Western Massachusetts, Tim knew the woman who ran the governor's office in Western Massachusetts because of the March for the Food Bank. The governor's office, the United Way, CISA, the Community Foundation of Western Mass, all who were involved in this food bank march got together and created this fund to help the farmers. The farmers are a huge part of making sure our neighbors have enough to eat and that all of us have enough to eat. So
that collaboration, we call it the Massachusetts Farm Resiliency Fund. In a short 6 weeks, we raised $3.3 million. We were writing checks. We wrote 294 checks by hand to farms to make sure that they would be able to make payroll, that they would stay in business. Because our local farms here in the Valley, they support every school system with their local produce in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. They are that important to us. And this walk is another way that unites people and says we're going to do good.
Well, we finally made it on the March for the Food Bank 15 to Chicopee, and we're here with the mayor of Chicopee, Mayor View. Tell us about what goes on when the relationship with the food bank and the food pantries here in the city.
Well, we're excited to be the hub of food security. You know, with so much insecurity out there, having the Food Bank of Western Mass and Chicopee at the crossroads in New England is a very special thing. And look, Chicopee's a blue-collar city. We have a lot of people that are really living paycheck to paycheck, having a hard time making ends meet, and having Lorraine's Soup Kitchen that's partnered tremendously over many years with the Food Bank of Western Mass, making sure that people are treated with respect and dignity. They can get a hot meal there Monday through Friday, and pantry just about every day. We're even mobile. We're doing some wonderful things here in Chicopee to make sure that people have food on their tables, and really excited about the march today and raising money. And for anyone who's listening, the money goes right to the Food Bank of Western Mass, and that's where our pantries get all of their supplies right from the food bank. So thank you.
And we're heading off to Lorraine's as our next stop after we leave City Hall here in Chicopee. Thanks for always welcoming us here. We are inside Lorraine's Soup Kitchen in Chicopee, which is like kind of the home base for making sure the neighbors of Chicopee have enough to eat, despite the fact that the Food Bank of Western Mass now lives here and makes sure that the shelves are stocked here at Lorraine's. Tell us about what you do here, Donna.
I was lucky enough to retire, and so between helping to care for my parents, I also come down to the kitchen and volunteer many hours. And
you're the board president too, right?
Yes. So I come down and help Kim out because really we have 2 full-time staff, 4 part-time, and there's a lot to do. And so we want to make sure that we always have enough food, enough stuff out on the shelves, and that we can answer any questions. We're seeing probably about 40 to 50 people a day for pantry, 10 to 2. And then we're serving 200 meals a night, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6. And then we take our truck. We got a new refrigerated truck, and we take it on the road, and we go to all of the elderly housing complexes and a lot of the other neighborhoods where someone might not be able to afford a car or maybe not be able to drive anymore. So we're bringing pantry to them.
And the Food Bank of Western Mass, I like to call it Mothership Hunger, it keeps the shelves at a place like Lorraine's Soup Kitchen stocked. And they're going to get drained down this holiday season, and the Food Bank will be there to make sure that they are stocked again.
Coming up, we'll hear more from the people and places of the March for the Food Bank 15 with Executive Director of the Food Bank, Andrew Morehouse, a bevy of officials in Holyoke, and a word or two from my gilded co-host. More of those walking north with him to fight hunger, too. You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
NEPM's podcasts are funded by Armbrook Village Senior Living in Westfield, with support services designed to help seniors age in place, including a Compass Memory Support Neighborhood. More at armbrookvillage.com. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass 5 College Credit Union, offering co-op advantage checking with cash back on all purchases, plus secure debit card controls, all from the UMass 5 mobile banking app. Insured by NCUA, umass5.coop.
Well, we are in Chicopee, and we've just left Lorraine's Soup Kitchen, which is one of the very many food pantries that the Food Bank of Western Mass keeps stocked. And talking to Kim Cass, who's the executive director there, and the president of the board, Donna, and all the volunteers who are there working, making sure that people are getting their boxes. 201, they all said they couldn't do the work that they do without the support of the Food Bank of Western Mass. And that is why I love to call it Mothership Hunger. About 200, I would say, if I remember correct, in the 4 counties of Western Mass, places like Lorraine's Soup Kitchen that the food bank works with. But who better to ask a question like this as we walk along the streets of Chicopee on this, the 15th March for the food bank, than the executive director himself, and one of the first people to march with me
way back when,
I think in year number 3.
Yeah, something like that.
Andrew Morehouse.
Yeah.
Andrew, we've come a long way in 15 years with the march and the generosity that people have shown, but we haven't really come a long way in fighting hunger in the ways that we and that the food bank have worked so hard to fight. We've made some major gains. Tell us what the state of hunger is like in the state of Massachusetts, especially the western part, as it stands right now here in 2024.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There was many years ago, there was a time when we said, when I was just hired back in 2005, that we had a goal. We were going to reduce food insecurity by 10% over 5 years. Then the Great Recession hit. Mm-hmm. So that was a reminder to me that, it's the economy, stupid.
Yeah.
That's what we face day in and day out now. And of course, it's more than the economy. It's the politics. It's our society. Do we embrace a world where we end hunger or not? And if we do, what are we going to do to make it happen? And so that's where we're at. And despite our best efforts, because it's the macro economy, it's what happens that affects people's pocketbooks, that are their wallets, that determine if they can afford enough food to put healthy and nutritious food on the table. And right now we're at an all-time high, even higher than during the height of the pandemic. We're providing upwards more than 124,000 food, I should say. We're providing food assistance through our network, as you almost correctly said, to 190.
190, all right, 10 more to go to 200.
Yeah, there you go. Local food pantries, meal sites, and shelters. And we're providing food assistance through that vast network to 124,000 people every month.
And that's like 10% of the entire population of all of Western Massachusetts, right? There's like about maybe even more.
It's more than that, because Western Mass population is like 850,000, something like that. It's gone down. In any event, Yeah, so now that we're at our new, as we call it, food warehouse resource education and advocacy center, we have the capacity to receive, store, and distribute a heck of a lot more food. And last month we distributed 1.7 million pounds of food. That's the equivalent of 1.5 million meals or so. That's more than we've ever done in 1 month. Just goes to speak to why there's so much need out there, and what our role is to address it.
Speaking with Andrew Morehouse, the Executive Director of the Food Bank, as we march along this 15th March for the Food Bank. The goal here is to raise $500,000 over the course of these 2 days and the weeks leading up to it and the weeks afterwards. There's still plenty of time if you're interested in donating where you can do that. But we've talked about on this show how the Food Bank is able to stretch that $1 into 3 meals. And that would mean 1.5 million meals. That's only 1 month of meals, though, according to the statistics that you just gave us. There's 12 months in a year, and the need is continuing to grow. There are many people here, including our U.S. congressman, who I'm sure we're going to hear from very shortly, who are... can you go grab that money without getting hit by a car? Thank you. That made our day. Thank you. There are people here like Congressman Jim McGovern and Senator Jake Oliveira, the mayor of Chicopee. We got Representative Pat Duffy back there, who are all working to try to fix this using our state or national treasure, our tax dollars. Yep. And there are ways that have been spelled out and that we've come very close to in this country, ending hunger from that perspective. There are many people, it seems, that don't think we should be doing that with our tax dollars. And that charity is the way to fix this problem. And we may be facing even more of that pressure coming up with the next administration. How do you to address people who have that worldview, that we should use charity exclusively to make sure our neighbors have enough to eat?
Sure. Well, we like to think of ourselves at the food bank as a big tent where everyone could be part of the solutions. And there's no one solution. There are many solutions. And we invite everyone to be a part of the solution by investing in our mission to end hunger, which I think we can all rally around, however you choose. And if charity is your shtick, we welcome you. If public policy change is your shtick, we welcome you. Because ultimately, if we're going to end hunger and we're going to be able to ensure that everybody has access to nutritious food so that they can lead a productive life, a life with dignity, respect, and opportunities to get ahead in life and support their families, it's going to take everyone with every possible solution that we can muster. So, we will continue to provide nutritious food to people when and where they need it, 52 weeks out of the year. But we know if we're going to end hunger, we do have to advance systemic solutions to systemic barriers that prevent people from being able to live with food security and dignity and opportunity. That's just a fact of the matter. And we believe if we talk this through, we can come up with, particularly in Massachusetts, which is a state of firsts. We've done so many things in ways that we're innovators for the whole country, that we can come up with smart solutions that not only help us achieve food security for everyone, but build just stronger, healthier, more vibrant communities. That's what we all want, and we can find a way to do it.
That's Andrew Morehouse, Executive Director of the Food Bank of Western Mass, here on the march for the Food Bank. It seems like it may be an uphill battle with expanding existing programs or even maintaining them on the federal level. But there have been some major gains in the years that we've been doing the march and the years that I've been learning more from you and other members of the Food Bank about the work of feeding our neighbors in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Can you talk about some of those programs and their efficacy in helping what you have to do to provide the almost 200 emergency food providers in the 4 counties of Western Mass with the food they need to keep their shelves stocked?
Sure. Well, first, it takes a long time. Policy change doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes it takes 2 years, 4 years, maybe even 6 years. And we've been working on it ever since the food bank came into existence, and certainly
42 years ago. Is that what it is?
Yeah, 42 years ago, and certainly more in the most recent years that we've invested in staff whose sole function is to help raise awareness about the issue of food insecurity, and then ways that we can solve hunger. And an important way, and one that has almost the most tremendous impact, is through policy change. So examples are, very recently, universal school meals. We've been advocating for that for a long time, and it took the pandemic to demonstrate to the public and to legislators that it would have an investment in universal school meals will ensure that kids don't go home hungry, plain and simple, and they can learn much better, and they're more attentive and just all around healthier. I was just talking with a school teacher the other day who's seen the dramatic change in the attentiveness and learning of kids because of universal school meals. Second one, healthy incentives program. It was a national pilot many years ago. I can't even remember, probably 2015 or so.
I think that's exactly right.
Yeah. And where was that national pilot? Hampden County, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
It's now an established program that's funded by the legislature, and it's smart because not only does it provide extra dollars to folks who receive SNAP benefits to purchase food from their local farmers at farm stands and farmers markets and those farms that operate as community supported agriculture farms where you can buy a share of the harvest. But it also supports those farmers. These are local farmers who are hiring local people. And we know how hard it is to farm, how hard it is to make a living farming. So it has double impact. It's supporting people who want to be able to eat nutritious food. And now they have access to it, and they're supporting local members of the community who are hiring local residents. It's an incredible investment. Talk about economic stimulus while doing the right thing.
And if you've been following the show or following the NEPM News Department's coverage of this, HIP has had a mid-year cut. It's going to go from a maximum of $80 a month for some families to a maximum of only $20 a month. Meanwhile, all these farmers were preparing their crops and their fields to provide that food, knowing that HIP was going to be there. There is a possibility, I just talked to Senator Jake Oliveira about this earlier, that a supplemental budget would be passed through the legislature that would bring that up to full funding. But these are the kinds of things that while we're making sure and raising money right now for the food bank, while that's continuing to happen to keep the shelves stocked, that these bigger policy ideas can bring in some sweeping change at the same time.
That's right. And a third one that we've been actively working on with our partners across the Commonwealth through the Economic Mobility Pathways Coalition is something we call the Cliff Effect Pilot, whereby the Commonwealth in its infinite wisdom did invest $1 million in this program, and it's a pilot to assist 100 families to continue to receive public support even when they've landed a promotion or a new job or additional hours that enables them to earn more money, but they lose their public benefits because they're no longer income eligible. So this investment in additional support during that time period allows them to continue to work and receive additional support to make it without having to give up that promotion or that extra hours and unfortunately be trapped in a vicious cycle of relying on public assistance instead of being supported to be able to earn enough money to support their own families, pay taxes, and invest those taxes back into the public good to support future households who also yearn to be able to free themselves from public assistance, but need the support to obtain those jobs and seek the opportunities that everybody wants.
And it provides for them a glide path to get off of those benefits eventually. So if you come from the perspective that people shouldn't be relying on benefits forever, this is a great way to think about it from a different perspective. And again, I believe all of us have that spark of goodness and love in our hearts, and nobody wants to see our neighbors struggle to find their next meal. And as Andrew Morehouse, Executive Director of the Food Bank, has just said, there are many pathways to help make this happen, and we're trying to learn about, hear about, and advocate towards so many of those with this March for the Food Bank. And you can continue to follow it throughout the course of the rest of today and all day tomorrow, the 43 miles from Springfield to Greenfield. We're getting closer and closer to the Willimantic Bridge over from Chicopee into Holyoke. Thanks so much for taking so much time on the march with us, Andrew Morehouse.
Thank you for continuing to lead this creative group of individuals over the years.
It's a kind way of putting it, as you're continuing to step on my very wide hoop dress, as I am Glenda from the Wicked musical.
Yeah. But it's all about raising awareness, because when we understand the causes of hunger, we're much more likely to rally behind it. And we encourage everybody to go to our website, foodbankwma.org, to learn more about the issue of food insecurity and hunger and how together we can end hunger.
Up next, the march lands in Holyoke with a visit to Kate's Kitchen. A handful of Holyoke officials, including State Rep Pat Duffy and Mayor Joshua Garcia, Pigeon Scribe Mo Willems, and more as we continue to follow the journey of the March for the Food Bank 15. You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by UMass Amherst School of Public Policy, offering graduate programs in public affairs, public policy and administration, data analytics, and computational social science. umass.edu/SPP. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar, offering solar options, energy security, and solutions for the local community. Learn more at northeast-solar.com.
But I did. I was like, "You're Monty, and do you remember getting coffee?"
Yeah.
It was one of the first things that he mentioned
Really?
when I was like,
Okay,
we should cover this because we're looking for hope in this very dystopian world we suddenly found ourselves in.
And then I was like, wait a minute, Reed Pittman.
I think I know their mom.
And Dad. I went to Kolkata with them and spent a long time in India with them, and it was life-changing for me. So your parents were witness to like one of the great awakenings of my entire life. So this brings everything full circle here. And you are the aforementioned Reed Pittman.
Yes, I am. I got to be group coordinator for this too, which was very exciting.
And what this is the Five College Advanced Studio Seminar presents Signs of Solastalgia, an exhibit at Smith College, and we're right near the Smith College Museum of Art. If you go in the main door, go to the right to the Smith College Museum of Art, but then take a sharp left, and you'll see the Janata Gallery, which is where this exhibit is. What's your name?
I'm Bela Chaibar.
And what's your name?
I'm Callie Van Loon.
So you three make up a quarter of the artists that are all a part of this.
Yes.
Khalees, why is this something that you needed to have, as opposed to me just knowing Reed's parents, that you wanted to cover?
Well, we got an inquiry, and it was an outline of the exhibit, and my ears and eyes perked up at the words climate anxiety and the events surrounding November 5th that were not blowing up Parliament. It had just happened.
So the name of the exhibit is Signs of Solastalgia, and that is maybe a word that people have not heard yet. Who wants to define what solastalgia means?
It's like the distress and anxiety that one might feel at the impending climate crisis.
And it's kind of amazing that this is 12 students from the 5 colleges, because our generation screwed it up. Your parents, Reed and me, are to blame for ruining this. Our parents are to blame for ruining this, but you are the ones that will hopefully begin the process of fixing it, but are also wrestling with the emotional aspect of it in a way I think that other generations haven't while they were still kids.
Well, in no small part because I don't think during their lifetime they ever had it good.
So tell us about what that word means to you.
I think it is what happens when you don't look away, and I think there is a strong emphasis on not looking away and looking at what is really happening, and I think that is really, really important in what's going on. But there's also some consequences and personal, like emotional consequence to doing that. So it is an act of like emotional labor, and I think although like a smaller act than like actually fixing things, giving that emotional labor of not looking away some kind of representation in a physical form. I think that's sort of what this show is about.
I think it's something that Bell Hooks said, and is that she talks about how having words for things can be really helpful to understanding them, and can let you feel empowered. And this show came at a really interesting time because I was feeling really disillusioned by art, and I was feeling really disillusioned by the world going into the semester. And I was like, oh no, this is not a great time for me to be in this course. But I don't know, learning through the course and getting some of the words to talk about the things that not only I but my peers were also feeling really helped me feel empowered to take the small action of making the show, putting it together, and kind of celebrating some of the ways in which our generation does deal with the world that we were born into.
I feel like it's important to mention that this course is something that the 12 of you put together. You decide what the theme for the exhibit is going to be. You do all of the promotion, you do the hanging, the layout, and all of that. So it didn't necessarily have to be solastalgia that was the topic of the whole exhibit either.
Our theme of the class was, I believe, Naue chose it. Naue Suzuki, our professor, chose it, but it was socio-ecological relationships and decolonization in the art studio. And so we all kind of, as we went through the curriculum of starting with extractivism and moving through land, water, pollution, and looking at artists under each of these things, and also just the science and experiences of other people outside of the United States, all around the world. We were working on developing our own pieces and responding to this theme, and then it came about that we chose the title through what our kind of 5 chosen adjectives or themes in our own work were. So we each chose 5 and then compiled them into a huge list. And it was actually Bela who came up with Signs of Solastalgia, kind of pulling from all of our own words.
I both love and hate this word, but
Yes.
it's totally new to me as of this exhibit, so it's great. And it rhymes with literally and figuratively, nostalgia, this sort of a hard look and a mixture of feelings of these things. Well, let's go take a look at some of the artwork, especially the stuff that you did. So it's a hallway gallery here at Smith College. None of you happen to be from Smith College, right? You're from Hampshire and you two are from Amherst, is that right?
Yes, that's
right. Yeah, nice. Mm-hmm. But there are Smith students here too, as well as students from, what is the other college?
MoHo, Mount Holyoke College.
Another new word to Khalees and I that the kids these days are calling Mount Holyoke MoHo. Oh, you're going to hear that a lot more on this show for sure. So whose art are we looking at first?
We're just lucky they want to hang out with us weird old people.
I know, right?
We're delighted. This is my artwork. It's called The Global Power of Greed. There are 6 prints on the wall in 2 rows, so 3 in each row. They all depict this 6-foot by 10-foot American flag that I made out of chicken wire and recycling that I gathered over the period of 2 months around my campus.
It's interesting where this garbage American flag finds itself. Some just lying like a flag position in a field, but one sort of draped over a free air pumping station at a gas station, one in the back of a pickup truck like you might see other flags. But I love the one where someone's wearing it like a cape.
I wanted someone to pose with it for scale, but also because I was wrestling with my own positionality in response to the climate crisis, and a big part of that kind of was habits of American consumerism and production and corporations, and how those, as a society in America, don't really see the true impacts of those unless you live in low-income communities or certain BIPOC communities is where you feel the effects the most. And these effects get placed on the shoulders of individuals more often than it does the corporations and the systems upholding the corporations.
Why the trash flag is under a Walmart there, I think, perhaps, as well.
Just making sure nobody misses the point.
Whose art are we going to see next?
Yeah, mine's up here.
Bela's art over here on the right.
Yeah. Okay, so mine's a large-scale drawn textile piece. So I actually drew it with fabric marker onto synthetic fabric that I had taken from my grandmother's house. It was used in my aunt's wedding, actually. And it's about 3 feet across and 8 1/3 feet tall. So part of what our class talks about too is how systems of global capitalism and colonialism are very connected to the globalized climate crisis. And so my piece kind of wrestles with ideas of displacement and cultural displacement and kind of how we deal with that and how we deal with growing up in societies that weren't necessarily built for us. We kind of grow up away from a lot of the things that we associate with our own cultures. So this piece is an exploration of like a particular type of South Asian textile art and a lot of the mythology that shows up in it. Mythology was a really effective way for me to work through how I was feeling because it was a way for me to connect to my culture, but because myths are something that are ever changing and in many ways like made up, it was a way for me to kind of write myself into them as well. So it's a combination of mythological figures, but also figures from my own life, like my parents are here on the right and the central figure is me.
What's the story of your myth? Because the figure of you looks like they could be reclining, but also could be falling.
Is there an intentional allusion to the Hanged Man, or no? The tarot card, like the major arcana card of the Hanged Man, they're often depicted in almost exactly this pose.
No, it's not intentionally referencing the tarot card, but you are right to point out that I think the figure is both resting and falling into it. In my artist statement, the way I described it is kind of like being both like thrown into this life, but also like feeling at home in the chaos of like diasporic communities and the cultural mixing that comes with that, both with being descended from like people of South Asian descent, but also Guyanese and Caribbean descent. I think it's really interesting that there's South Asian people all over the world, including like in the Caribbean. Like I said, part of my family history was that they were taken by the British from India to Guyana as indentured servants. And I think it's really interesting how strong imagery plays a role in building a new cultural life when you're kind of displaced like that. Part of the inspiration for this piece was this skirt I'm wearing in the middle. I actually just studied abroad in Indonesia. Oh, wow. And it was similarly very formative for me. And when I brought this skirt back to my grandmother's house in Newark, she like loved the skirt and thought it was so amazing and wanted me to come to Temple with her to show it off. And like, I just thought that was so great that like a skirt from Indonesia could be so compelling to my grandmother who was born and raised in Guyana, but like, I don't know, that this imagery could be so strong and impactful.
Coming up, more with Bela Achaibar, Reed Pittman, and we'll see, or I guess hear, Kaylee Van Leeuwen's art as part of Signs of Solastalgia at Smith College.
And later we'll learn even more with No No Boy before you can catch the project's blend of history and musicality at the Drake this evening.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
Here at the Five College Advanced Studio Seminar presenting Signs of Solastalgia at Smith College, which you can see through this Friday.
I'm Kaylee Van Leeuwen. My work is a combination of two sculptures. We have a mask on the left and a tall hybrid creature of like different prey animals, of squirrels, bunnies, sort of animals that we see all the time, but perhaps don't take as seriously as we would people who are just at a different scale, at a larger scale. So this creature is larger than life size. I'm 6 foot and it's still like a good couple inches higher than me. And it is weeping. It has a long trail of blue wool reaching all the way to the ground, sort of as these representation of tears. And the sculpture is made up of a couple different materials. So wood is sort of the building block of how this piece is constructed. And then on top, there's wool that is needle felted all the way around, some wire mesh. And then on the left here, we have a mask, which you are welcome to put on. It's designed to be worn.
Not me. You'll never get that back.
And I don't have any hair. So it's easy to go over my head.
It won't be because I don't want to give it back. My hair, like, it will never separate itself.
Police will be one with the mask.
It will.
Yeah.
And the mask has elements of a predator kind of creature. It has large teeth, sort of slanted eyes with a sort of shroud around the mask of the eyes. The idea is that you put on the mask and walk up to the creature, this tall standing creature, and see the creature with its eyes closed, weeping, understanding all of the impacts on the environment that the animals are bearing witness to, even if we try to avoid them and try to look away.
I'm going to put the mask on now, and I'm going to approach the other creature. I feel like, as a predator, I should want to attack it, but because it's crying these like huge rivers of tears, it's so sad and beautiful that I want to hug it.
Both of you worked in, actually all three of you kind of worked in textiles. Why?
I was working with found material. I didn't want to, gonna be real, on a college budget. So we were allotted a little bit of money for this, but I didn't really want to have to dig into that. So, and I was also inspired to kind of connect with waste on my campus and see what people's habits were and how much I could get.
Bela?
I think that textiles have a really intimate quality about them because they're often worn and we often find them like in our bedding, and they're just something that we like are compelled to use and touch very close to ourselves in a way that I've done most of my art training in oil painting, and I find that that's like very different. So I think I was trying to work with a material that, I don't know, felt a little bit more close. Yeah, and I also got it from my grandmother's house.
Callie?
I think sort of making fabric, I'm really interested in what the fibers are. So for this particular sculpture, the fibers are wool. I think sheep's wool is very conceptually interesting from the perspective that it is made by an animal, but the sheep, in a sense, have evolved alongside of humans to be animals that can, help. There's a circular nature between the human and the sheep that can come across in a textile like this. By the act of needle felting, you are crushing fibers together, and it allows me to use all different wools made by different people, made by different sheep, crushing them together and creating what Bela said, something that's intimate.
This exhibit is called Signs of Solastalgia, which is dealing with climatological grief. Is there anything that gives you three college-age artists from the Five College any hope, either through the art that you created or through things that are happening in the world around us?
I think the way that everybody came together to make this exhibit gave me a lot of hope. I don't know, if it didn't give me hope on a huge scale, it definitely brought me a lot of joy. And I think that, finding joy is its own type of resistance too.
I also feel like for me, a big part of solastalgia has been like the processing of grief and the embodiment of grief. And I'm gonna sound like a total plug for this the whole semester now. I would be so proud of me. But we had nature observation journals, and so we were tasked to go outside and to like sit and kind of almost meditate for 20 minutes and then draw images of wherever we had chosen. Those moments really empowered me and connected me. That connection was deepened and came to support me after the election as I was going out, and I was just sitting with nature and feeling a little bit like a little heartbroken, and also a little bit like no matter what, Mother Nature keeps trying. Like she has no option but to continue, and that I think I want to take a leaf out of her book. It spurred me to like start looking at local lobby groups and figure out how I can push my own kind of climate protections agenda through other facets of government and start walking the walk beyond just my artwork.
Not to say the artwork isn't a valid walk.
Oh my God.
let me put that out there.
Callie?
I think what I found most encouraging was that everybody was looking very carefully. We have some pieces like Lon's piece, which is very research-oriented and looking at something very specific like bittersweet vine and bittersweet berries, which are an invasive plant around here.
They're the worst.
Khalees has railed against them many times on the show.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, it's my constant battle, period.
Well, you can make a lot of interesting stuff out of it if you harvest it and
Just get it out of the ground and make something.
Yeah. So not only were we looking very carefully, but also when people came to the exhibit, people were looking at the work very carefully and examining it very carefully. So I found that very encouraging. And then like Reed was saying, having opportunities to respond to that by going outside. And when I was journaling, I was looking at the ground and seeing what animals had been there and looking at the coyote track and the bobcats and things like that. Understanding who really is around us, which animals are sharing this space, I think can be really important, both for mental health, understanding that we are in some senses together, but also in the sense that I think people will make different decisions if they understand that they are not the only ones at the center of the story.
Is there anything about this class that you've learned that is going to change the way that you interact with the art that you're going to make from now on?
For me, I definitely, this whole experience is like illustrated like the legitimate power that the environmental art can have, and it does sort of make people care in a way. It proved to me that even if it takes more time, kind of scrounging for materials and spending time on the materials instead of just going to buy what's nearest, it pays off. I think it makes a huge difference to have the flag made out of what I made it out of as opposed to like fabric swatches from Michaels.
Yeah, I think similarly material-wise, I really enjoyed working with materials that I already had. There's actually a whole other side to my piece, like it's twice as long, so I'm actually gonna work on the other side next semester. It's a very direct answer.
I want to center observation more. A lot of my work is very sort of inside my own mind and taking stock of my emotional sense, like my emotional sensibilities. That's always going to be an important part of my practice, but also going outside and letting other beings, other creatures into that practice. As, you know, maybe corny as it sounds, like sitting down in the woods and listening for a long time, really investigating a leaf, looking at the ground, seeing what's been here, I think can be both a fulfilling but also insightful way of adding new material and adding new thought processes into my practice.
Thanks for taking so much time with us.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
To the next generation.
Bela Akaibar, Reed Pittman, and Kaylee Van Leeuwen, artists who are part of Signs of Solastalgia at Smith, on view until Friday. Now to get a bit of music and history lesson all rolled into one.
With Dr. Julian Saporita, who helps the project helms the project No Boy, will be performing in Amherst at the Drake tonight.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
English.